To give us the view of the economic freedom fighters to the U.S. strikes in Nigeria, we are now joined by EFF MP Nqobile Mhlongo. Nqobile, thank you so much for joining us on the late edition. I've just had a conversation now with a security expert placed there in Nigeria, and who says the Nigerians welcome this. You as the EFF fighters have condemned this. Give us your view, please.
Good evening to you and your viewers at home. As the economic freedom fighters, we reject this firstly because the sovereignty of African state or of the Nigerian government is not respected or considered taken into regard. Number two, our problem with Donald Trump is how he has termed the imperial intervention, military intervention by the U.S. into the Nigerian soil as something that he's proud of doing, which is not necessary, and how he has coined a very complex problem. He has now turned it into a terrorism of Christians being killed by an Islamic state, and how the media, especially the Western media, refers to Nigeria as a country, as an Islamic state. Nigeria is just Nigeria cannot be just referred to as an Islamic state. Now we reject the intervention by the U.S. military because we know wherever the U.S. military has gone to, they leave a permanent state of destruction. They leave civilians, thousands and millions of civilians dead. They leave permanent destruction that is not easy to recover. We've got examples of where the U.S. has intervened. Look at Libya, look at Sudan, look everywhere where the American military goes. They leave a tail of destruction that will take decades to recover. Yeah. So we're not surprised as well by the Nigerian government for having accepted and welcomed this intervention. Why would you accept an intervention by the U.S. military, especially by the lunatic Donald Trump, when we know the position of the U.S. everywhere they've gone? Look at what is happening in the DRC, just next door. The Western powers, especially the U.S., has got a direct thing to benefit from the chaos and destruction that has besieged Western African countries. So this is one of their tactics, and we are warning the Nigerian government not to allow this to happen on their soil, not to allow their country to also be used as a base for the U.S. to undermine the sovereignty of African continent. So that is our position as EFF. Even though the government has accepted it, it does not mean you have to accept. You don't accept something because it is fashionable to do so. We raise this objection because it is the principled position on our side.
Yeah, I'm sure when our viewers are watching us, they'll think, because when we read the intro, the Nigerian government actually said that they worked jointly with the U.S. government for this, which means that they were fully involved from the beginning. And if you hear what the security expert that we just spoke to about the impact that the ISIS in the several states of Nigeria have on lives of people there, people who are dying. How concerned are you that this is something that we may see stretching its tentacles in other parts of the continent?
Most definitely is going to spread in the other parts of the continent because it is fueled and funded by the U.S. Now, the U.S. takes a complex issue, an issue of a failed state, an issue of poverty, issues of economic exclusion. Now, they then term it and narrowly term it and say that it's an ISIS state, it's a terrorism. The U.S., everywhere they go, they first label a country so that they have reasons as why as there's military intervention by the U.S. They want to justify, they want to pretend like their hands are clean. They are somehow fueling this terrorism. So the problem in the northern part of Nigeria is that there's a crisis of different factions of rebel groups that are trying to somehow rebel against the government and overthrow the government. But also it is an issue of poverty, land disposition, and economic exclusion. People have been fighting those issues, and when those issues are not addressed by the state, therefore the people have decided to go on the street. And it can't be that there's Muslims are just killing Christians. People have died there. It's not only Christians. It's Christians, Muslims, non-believers, and traditional community members. So it's not true that there's a deliberate target to kill only Christians in Nigeria. That's what America does. Everywhere they first accuse it. Look at what is happening now, the aggression of the US in Venezuela. Why is that? Because the US first labels you. Once they are done labeling you as having or causing a problem, then they move in with the military intervention in order to leave a tail of permanent destruction. That's what they are fighting for. And we are calling upon the ordinary people of Nigeria to refuse their government to bow down to the US imperialism. They must refuse. Next thing, there'll be a permanent tail of destruction in Nigeria. Nigeria will turn upside down there. And at the end, their mineral resources will be extracted from Nigeria to go to be extracted by American companies. That's what Donald Trump wants. That's why he's even proud of himself that he has intervened. There's no such a thing that he worked hand in hand with the Nigerian government. They are saying it as a cover-up. If they are doing so, it is the puppet state that has now been controlled in Nigeria. So we cannot have a situation like that where Nigerian soil will be used to undermine all of us in the African continent.
Nqobile Mhlongo is the EFF MP, and she's been joining us talking about the US strikes in Nigeria. Thank you so much for your time.